On the last episode, we talked about me going in the hospital and what all my thoughts was when I went into the hospital. The first honest thoughts I had about being an alcoholic and about just giving up and just forgetting everything and what it was going to do to my wife and my kids. I had brung myself down so far to where it was all about me. And that's sad to say, but that's the truth, because that's how far down you can go. Because you can get into you can drink yourself into or drug yourself into a situation where you just say, screw it, I'm done. But then, you have to think about all those around you and what kind of effect that's going to have for a lifetime for them. It's not just an immediate effect. It's an effect, that would be for a lifetime. And, excuse me, that's not something you want to do. It's not something I want to do. I had the Lord in my heart, and He performed that miracle on me, and to this day I can't explain it other than it being a miracle from Jesus Christ. Because in hindsight, over the past 35 years, He has done things in my life where things that He's done would have been impossible for you to think about. However, He moved the pieces around on the puzzle to where everything just fit together just perfect, the way He meant for it to be, and you don't really realize it until after it's done, and you never seen it coming. I never seen my mother coming. I never seen that situation happening the way it happened, because I knew what I was going to do. I knew I was in control of it, and I knew I had the power. I was in control. But then that control was taken away from me through a miraculous action that Jesus Christ done. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm having issues with my throat this morning. But it was a complete miracle. And, for someone to sit and tell me that Jesus Christ is not real, He's not, or that there's not a God, I can't prove and produce to you that He is a God. I can't produce that, but I know right here in my heart that He is a God, and He is my Lord Jesus Christ, and He will do for me what I can't do for myself. He will perform miracles in me that I can't do for myself. He will perform miracles in me that I never would see coming in a million years. That my imagination, and it just happens all so quickly. There's just been, and I haven't even got to the part, there's a lot of other miracles that I'm going to talk about that Jesus Christ has done for me. And I can't thank Him enough for getting me sober, because every morning whenever I pray, the very first words out of my mouth are, thank you, Lord, for letting me live another day sober. And that's a privilege. That's something that's a gift for me to be able to get up at my age every day and be able to move around and to have the physical abilities that I still have at my age. It's a miracle to me, because there are so many people passing away around me that I sit and wonder, and it seems like the older I get, the closer I get to seeing the Lord. It becomes more joyous, I guess is the way to put it. I can't wait to meet the Lord, but at the same time, I'm not ready to meet Him yet, because I got so many things in my life that I want to finish. I want to provide a good example for my son and for my daughter. Even though they're adults now, I still need to provide an example for them to go by, and hopefully a good example, not a bad example. And then my grandbabies, I've got to provide a good example for them, because whenever I'm gone, they're going to remember things, and they're going to remember hopefully all the good things. And I'm not a perfect person, and I mess up from time to time. but it's all forgivable stuff. But then, I can correct situations like that. But I want them to remember the good stuff. And I want them to remember that I was honorable enough and had enough honesty in me to do things the right way and the way things should be done. But anyway, I said in the last episode that I was going to talk something about enabling. When the people around you excuse me, when the people around you are not willing to talk to you, or you are not willing to listen to them, and a lot of times it comes to you shutting them out. But this is for the enablers. If you dismiss what each person is, what the alcoholic or the drug addict is doing as being all right, or you go behind them and clean up the messes that they make, you're enabling them to go out and continue doing that. Because me as an alcoholic, as long as my wife didn't say anything, or as long as my mother didn't say anything, or my family members didn't say anything, it actually, in my mind, gave me permission to continue doing what I was doing, that what I was doing was all right. And I'm not saying that them getting on me would have stopped me from doing it, but it may have made me maybe not go as far as I did. And and then it comes back around to, well, you have to do this for yourself. But maybe that by them not enabling me, maybe I would have come around to that decision on my own, rather than, I used to borrow money from people back in my drinking days. I would borrow from Peter to pay Paul, and then Paul to pay John. That's how bad it had gotten. It had gotten to the point where I was borrowing money on my payday, and my paydays, they was all owed out. And then come Friday, when I get my paycheck and I paid everybody out, I didn't have enough to pay the bills. And then come Monday, I was back to borrowing money from these same people, and it was just like a vicious cycle that continued going. And they was partially enabling me as well, because anybody can be an enabler. A wife can be an enabler. The young'uns can be enablers. When you don't say nothing to this person who has a problem, they have a problem, and truthfully, they probably know they have a problem as well. It just hasn't been pointed out to them in a way that they can recognize. Because everyone around me knew that I was an alcoholic. They knew this. All the friends that I drank with, all the friends that, even people that I didn't drink with, which was mainly my family at the time. And then whenever I met my wife, after I had got out of the hospital the first time, I was back to doing what I was doing. She was enabling me, but she didn't realize she was enabling me. A lot of family members don't realize that they are enabling you whenever they dismiss or casually dismiss what you're doing, and they just simply say it's wrong, or they don't actually sit down and talk to you about it. And to be quite honest, you're probably not going to listen to them anyway, but it will stick something in the back of your head if somebody brings it up to you. And eventually you'll run out of people. But the enablers, I guess what I'm trying to say is the people around you have just as much of an effect on you quitting what you're doing as you do. Because if they loan you money, if they go out drinking with you, if you all go to a restaurant and they order you a beer, or they order you a mixed drink, or you going to a party, which if you're going to a party, you're going to be drugging and drinking. I've been to a lot of parties where give me the drugs, give me the drink, I'll do everything. And that's just the way the parties works. But when I went into the military, that's where I really learned how to go to the parties. I learned how to party. I learned how to do drugs. I learned how I've tried just about every drug there is imaginable. Some worked and some I didn't care much for. But the fact of the matter is, I got into the drugs and the drinking, a lot of drugs and drinking. I even had got into dealing at one time, and it was just one of those things where it was a lifestyle. I had turned it into a lifestyle, and the military allowed me to do that. And the military themselves are enablers, but you have to have, you are in control of you. No one is in control of you but you. And there's a lot of examples I could give for enablers. Your mother, your wife, your husband, your father, your kids, your aunts, your uncles. Everyone can be an enabler if they're not willing to tell you that you have a problem and bring that up to you. And maybe by doing that you won't go so far down that road, because I wouldn't want anyone to go down the same road that I went on, and not a lot of people goes down that road, but that is in fact the end game for some people. And it's everyone, like I've said in earlier episodes, everyone has a rock bottom, and your enablers are actually, when you think about it, your enablers are actually determining your rock bottom by not saying something or saying something. So if you've got a son or a daughter or a husband and a wife and they're doing this stuff, bring it up to them. And it's if they really love you, they're not going to divorce you, or they're not going to disown you, because they're going to the feelings they have for you, that part doesn't change. That part never changes, because even if it was to go bad, that part, the love part, love is something, if you love your husband and you love your wife, the love part does not disappear, because love is from God. God is love. That part will not disappear. The drugs and the drinking are not of God. So that part can disappear, and that part can wreck your life. But the love for your spouse, or the love for your mother or father or your kids, that part will, the core of that part will not disappear, because God is love and He's in your heart. And the enablers, they don't realize that they are enabling you to do anything, because they're just either not wanting to confront the situation, or not wanting to make you angry, or they're worried about what your reaction is going to be, what they're going to say. And sometimes they're just afraid to say anything, and not for fear of getting hurt or anything, but just for fear of the unknown, because they don't know how you're going to react to it. Because if you're drinking, or if you're already high, that's when you're around them, and they don't know how you're going to react to that. And they love you just as much as you love them. So when you think about it, they're enabling you, but they don't know how to confront you. They don't know how to bring it up. So I hope that, this message is mainly for the enablers. If you are enabling someone, or if you're dismissing what they're doing, and they're thinking in their head that it's all right, they still love you. And I could take a husband and wife example. Say your wife is an alcoholic, and you know that she's an alcoholic, and you bring it up to her, but you have to pick your ways of bringing it up to her, or when you're going to bring it up to her. And even if she got mad at you and said that she was going to divorce you, or he's going to divorce you as his wife, even if they say that, the love, God's love, is still there. That part doesn't disappear. So don't throw away your marriage just because someone's like that. Help them, talk to them, say something to them, try to have a conversation with them, a calm, surreal conversation with them, and that may work better than just jumping up out of anger and saying, you're a drunk, you're an alcoholic, you need to fix yourself. That's not the way to go about doing it. You have to think before you speak when it comes to, if you're the enabler and you're speaking to the drunk or the druggie, I call them druggies, the drug addict, if you're speaking to them in a manner of, you're not insulting their intelligence, but you're realizing how far down they have gone and what they need to do to fix it, or what they need to try to do to fix it. That's what you want. You want to help them fix it. But as long as you don't say nothing, then you're just enabling them to continue doing what they're doing. And their rock bottom may be a bad rock bottom. Like I said, everyone has a rock bottom. That rock bottom may be, 2 years into drinking and drugging, and they get into a car accident, or they have a bad accident at work. I know I was a butcher for many years. I've stabbed myself several times. I was too dumb to figure it out. And it was just, it wasn't that I was really too dumb to figure it out. Yeah, well, I was too dumb to figure it out when I think about it. But at the same time, that may be, a car wreck or an injury at work, or not even an injury at work, just a scare at work, or a near-death scare where they think, wow, if that thing would have been 3 inches closer, it would have killed me. That may be just enough to jolt them. That may be their rock bottom. Not everybody's rock bottom is what mine was. I know what mine was, and it scared the crap out of me. It didn't at the time, but once I went back to the hospital and thought back on what I was planning on doing, it really scared me that I had went that far, because I didn't think about what it would do to my wife. I didn't think about what it would do to my children. I didn't think about what it would do to my son and my daughter. And then whenever they was ready to have children, at that time they didn't have children. When they was ready to have children, those children would never even see their grandfather, and then the only stories they would have had would have been, okay, well, your grandfather, this is how he passed away, and what kind of reputation would, or what kind of idea are they going to get from that? And that may devastate them growing up. They'll think, well, my grandpa done this, my grandpa done that. It just, actions have reactions, and those kind of actions, have a adverse reaction that you're probably not going to like. But anyway, everybody's rock bottom is not like mine was. But it's good that I didn't know at the time that it was my rock bottom until the Lord performed a miracle. And then once the Lord performed a miracle and I was laying in this hospital bed, I was thinking about all this stuff, my first night there, of everything that I had put my wife through, everything I put my son through, my daughter through. And as I said earlier, I didn't abuse my kids or anything like that, because I've never been an abusive person when it comes to me and my wife or my kids. I would never lay a finger on a female to begin with. And anytime we got into an argument, even if I was drinking, when we got into an argument, I'd walk away, because I was scared of myself, because I have seen me and what I have the capabilities of doing. I'm not a small guy. I'm a big guy, and I know the things that I have done in the past. So I know what my abilities are, and I have the ability to hurt people if I need to hurt people, or in defense of myself. If I need to hurt someone, I can hurt someone. But at the same time, I would never use that against my wife or my kids. Whenever I spanked them, it was always with care. But they got the spanking, but there was never any abuse in my family, or never any abuse in my immediate family as far as my wife and my kids goes. But anyway, I was laying there in the hospital, and to get back to the enablers part, everyone around me was enabling me to do what had brought me to that point. If things would have been said by different people, and this is not a blame game. I don't take me the wrong way. I'm not blaming anybody for not saying anything at all, because people just don't realize it. And you don't really it's something you don't realize until you think about it later. And as you get older, you get wiser, and you remember things, and you think, well, I could have done that differently. but we don't realize it until it's too late. And I thought about all that, but your rock bottom doesn't have to be that rock bottom. And if you're an enabler, by you saying something now rather than waiting, that rock bottom may be not so bad, whereas the rock bottom could get really, really bad. Because trust me, I know where my rock bottom was, and I know where other people's rock bottoms have been, and I know people that have lost their lives by hitting the rock bottom, and that was the end of their life because they didn't realize at the time that they had the rock bottom. But to be honest, they probably didn't care, because the drugs and the alcohol had taken over so much of their mind and their body that they was just doing it out of habit, or thinking that's the way it's supposed to be, because chemical dependency, it changes the chemicals in your mind, and it changes the way your mind works. But but if you're an enabler, you're better off saying something now rather than waiting. If you're going by cleaning up messes, and that's a lot of it, if you allow this stuff to go and you go behind this person, they can't clean up the mess because they don't have the money, or they don't have the honesty, or they don't have what they need in order to clean the mess up that they created, then you're going back behind them and cleaning it up so that you don't look bad. It's not right for you to do that. You have to let them fall. And then let them fall and let them learn their lesson. If they go to jail, they go to jail. They will learn the lesson at some point. You just have to step back and let the Lord take care of that part. And I can't reiterate that enough, and I'll dwell more on it in the next episode, because enablers is a very important subject when it comes to alcoholism and chemical dependency and drug addiction, because the enablers are the ones that actually allow you to do what you're doing. But anyway, I'm going to end this episode with that, and in the next episode I will talk more about what my feelings was when I went into the hospital and what was on my mind the whole time in the first few days while I was in there. Thank you for listening, and God bless each and every one of you.